As part of your drilling permit for PADEP, you have to conduct water quality testing. Can you explain your obligation and the testing that you complete?
Yes, as part of the well drilling permit, we're required to do a water survey out to 2,500 feet from the wellhead itself. The funny thing is the DEP requires notifications of those same drilling permits out to 3,000 feet. So instead of people calling why we're not getting tested, we've self-imposed to go out to 3,100 feet to do our water surveys. And basically, we hire a third-party contractor that's not affiliated with, is not an employee of the lab or affiliated with Olympus, and they will contact everybody that falls within that radius. They'll conduct a survey, so basically all your domestic water supplies, even if it's to water your cows, whatnot, we'll get out there, we'll sample all of those. Those will all be analyzed, and then we're required, once we get those back from the lab, to get them back to the landowners within 10 days, and then we're required to provide those to the Pennsylvania DEP at a minimum of 10 days prior to any drilling operations.
And do you disclose the results of those water tests to anyone but the landowners?
No, we do not.
And one of those reasons, I know that we've had a couple of questions and discussions with the township. Why? Why would anyone care if their water tests are disclosed? Well, think if you're selling your house and you find out that your water isn't great. That makes it more difficult to sell your house. So there are some reasons why, practical reasons why people don't want to disclose that information.
It's also just private information. DEP is not allowed to release that either. And a lot of people have never had their water tested, so the first time they see what their quality of their water is typically when we provide those with that analysis.
And we've discussed in our materials, and we've talked with your solicitor, it's Olympus's position that any water quality testing requirements or disclosure of those results that's beyond what PADEP requires is preempted, and we're happy to continue those discussions with your solicitor.
Next item, the applicant has just addressed the issue regarding testing of water wells, developed springs, and surface waters. The zoning ordinance currently requires that those sources of water within 1,000 feet of the well site be tested for their existing quality. Testimony tonight was that, if I understand correctly, that there will be testing by Olympus out to a 3,100 foot radius. The zoning ordinance does request that testing be performed for a number of parameters listed in the ordinance as bacteria/coliform, salt, brine, sulfur, hydrocarbons, including halogenated hydrocarbons, and heavy metals. I would ask that the applicant identify which of those parameters that they are not proposing to test for. And I guess just a confirmation, does that 3,100 feet also extend not only to wells but to develop springs and surface waters?
It's landowner specific. Obviously, we ask the landowners what sources they have, and we will test those sources.
Okay.
Because you don't know. Unless you're on the property, you don't know that.
Correct.
So, just food for thought, if you're willing to self-impose a 3,100 foot radius, and the zoning ordinance only requires a 1,000 foot radius, is there still the need for preemption to that zoning ordinance section? If, in essence, you're exceeding what the ordinance requires anyway? Just,
The ordinance requires us to give you the results.
okay. So the conflict that you currently have with that ordinance provision is that providing the sample results to the township.
And
It's also being subject to potentially inconsistent regulation from township to township in an area where it's clearly covered by state law. The state law is intended to occupy it.
Okay.
In addition, I don't know what authority the township would have to enforce the water testing. That's under the purview of DEP as well.
Well, I mean, to be clear, I don't think that there's a criteria that has to meet a certain standard. The township's looking for disclosure of the information, not that some action be taken as to whether or not it tests in a certain manner. So I guess I would argue that it's not preemptive, that it's nothing explicitly under the Oil and Gas Act or DEP regulations that would say that this information can't be shared. Now, if the township would turn down the application based on a finding or results of those testing, I think you'd certainly be within your rights to say that's outside the scope. But the disclosure of the information to the township, I'm not so sure, but I guess we can continue that
Yeah,
conversation.
that's where the privacy implications come into play.
Okay, I'm not sure there's a privacy right to your water testing results, but we can talk about it.